Good day, Internet! Today we are going to tour one of the oldest neighborhood in New York, the Greenwich Village historical icon. Greenwich Village, or simply the Village, is a neighborhood on the west side of Lower Manhattan in New York City, bounded by 14th Street to the north, Broadway to the east, Houston Street to the south, and the Hudson River to the west. Greenwich Village also contains several subsections, including the West Village west of 7th Avenue and the Meatpacking District in the northwest corner of Greenwich Village. The Jefferson Market branch of the New York Public Library, once known as the Jefferson Market Courthouse, is a National Historic Landmark located at 425 Avenue of the Americas 6th Avenue in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, originally built as the 3rd Judicial District Courthouse from 1874 to 1877, and was designed by architect Frederick Clark Withers. A tall octagonal wooden fire lookout tower was the first building on the site, built 1833, located in the center of the merchants' sheds at the Jefferson Market that had been established at this site in 1830 and named for the late president. The 1836 Henry J. Seaman House, 152 West 11th Street. In 1854, the house was purchased by Henry J. Seaman, born on Staten Island in 1805. He had served as a New York representative to Congress from 1845 through 1847. He was a broker with offices on William Street, but his business interests went far beyond that. He was, as well, a director in the Mechanics Fire Insurance Company and the Staten Island Railroad, and the secretary of the Plank Road Company. As Greenwich Village was once a rural, isolated hamlet to the north of the 17th century European settlement on Manhattan Island, its street layout is more organic than the planned grid pattern of the 19th century grid plan based on the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. Greenwich Village was allowed to keep the 18th century street pattern of what is now called the West Village. Many of the neighborhood streets are narrow and some curve at odd angles. This is generally regarded as adding to both the historic character and charm of the neighborhood. The Northern Dispensary, built in 1831, the triangular public health clinic served the poor and infirm in the Greenwich Village Historic District. Waverly Place inspired The Wizards of Waverly Place, an American fantasy teen sitcom. The series centers on Alex Russo Selena Gomez, a teenage wizard living on Waverly Place in the Greenwich Village section of New York City, who undertakes training and equipped with magical abilities. I am now standing at 55 Washington Square South Street. I am now looking at Judson Memorial Church Sanctuary, and its Campanile Tower, built in 1888, was founded by Edward Judson, who had been preaching at the Berean Baptist Church on Downing Street, also in the village. This place is all part of New York University. It is not your traditional university with miles of green acreage and beautifully manicured pathways connecting academic buildings. This university basically surrounds Washington Square, a small park filled with eclectic personalities, which acts as the school's common area, while the university itself spreads out in a 2-block radius in each direction around that same park, given its compact size. The university has tons of people passing through, most of which are a mix between students, tourists, and locals. In a city of over 20 million people, there is a lot of emphasis on academics and research opportunities for students. NYU stands as the premier educational institution in New York City next to Columbia. New York University NYU is a private research university chartered in 1831 by the New York State Legislature NYU was founded in 1830 by a group of New Yorkers led by Albert Gallatin as a non-denominational all-male institution near City Hall based on a curriculum focused on a secular education. The university moved in 1833 and has maintained its main campus in Greenwich Village surrounding Washington Square Park. Washington Square Park is a 9.75-acre public park. One of the best known of New York City's public parks, it is an icon as well as a meeting place and center for cultural activity. An open space dominated by the Washington Square Arch at the northern gateway to the park, with a tradition of celebrating nonconformity. The park's fountain area has long been one of the city's popular spots, and many of the local buildings have at one time served as homes and studios for artists. The first fountain next to the arch was completed in 1852 and replaced in 1872. In 1851, it was described as having a very large circular basin, with a central jet and several side jets. A story on the completion of the fountain appeared in the first edition of the New York Daily Times, which would eventually become the New York Times. Aside from the fact that it was so surreal to actually see it in person because I've seen it on a lot of movies, series, there is something so inviting about this park. It's in the middle of the city, just a few steps, and you're already looking at NYU. The statue of Giuseppe Garibaldi was unveiled in 1888. NYU students and artists would perform here every afternoon to inspire people and chill and hang out from a long day of school. In 1889, to celebrate the centennial of George Washington's inauguration as President of the United States, a large plaster and wood memorial arch was erected over Fifth Avenue just north of the park. Freemasons from St. John's Lodge No. 1 lead a procession through the arch with the George Washington Inaugural Bible for the Centennial Parade of Washington's inauguration. The temporary plaster and wood arch was so popular that in 1892, a permanent Tuckahoe marble arch, designed by the New York architect Stanford White, was erected, standing 77 feet 23 meters and modeled after the Arc de Triomphe. Built in Paris in 1806, during the excavations for the eastern part of the arch, human remains, a coffin, and a gravestone dated to 1803 were uncovered 10 feet 3.0 meters below ground level. The piers stand 30 feet 9.1 meters apart, and the arch opening is 47 feet 14 meters high. The iconography of the arch centers on images of war and peace. On the frieze are 13 large stars and 42 small stars, interspersed with capital WS. The inscription on the attic story reads, "Let us raise a standard to which the wise and the honest can repair. The event is in the hand of God," phrased by George Washington. Washington Mews is on land that in the 18th century was part of a large farm owned by Captain Robert Richard Randall. Upon Randall's death, he bequeathed the land to what became known as Sailor's Snug Harbor. It came with two-story stables built along what became known as Washington Mews. The private stables were used by the families of men such as Richard Morris Hunt, John Taylor Johnston, and Pierre Lorillard. In 1881, New York City's Department of Public Works ordered the construction of Washington Mews' first gates at each end, in an apparent attempt to distinguish the mews from public streets. In 1916, Sailor's Snug Harbor had a dozen of the stables remodeled into artist studios designed by Manick and Frank. During the 20th century, artists living there included Paul Manship, Gaston Lachaise, and later Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. NYU's New York City campus includes more than 171 buildings spread between Manhattan and Brooklyn. Most of the school's buildings in Manhattan are located across a roughly 230-acre 93 hectares area bounded by Houston Street to the south, Broadway to the east, 14th Street to the north, and 6th Avenue of the Americas to the west. The core of NYU consists of buildings that surround Washington Square Park. The Jeffrey S. Gould Plaza, located between Washington Square East and Mercer Street on West 4th Street, is surrounded by the buildings for some departments of the College of Arts and Science as well as the main buildings for the Stern School of Business and the Current Institute of Mathematical Sciences. The Brown Building is a 10-story building that is part of the campus of New York University NYU, which owns it. It is located at 23-29 Washington Place in the Greenwich Village and is best known as the location of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of March 25, 1911, which killed 146 people. The majority of the shirtwaist factory workers who occupied the building were female immigrants. The immigrants came to the United States for a better life, although they were working in terrible conditions within the factory and were underpaid. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, owned by Russian immigrants Max Blank and Isaac Harris. Even though the immigrants were provided a job, their work environment was not safe. Rooms were overcrowded with few working bathrooms and no ventilation, resulting in conditions ranging from sweltering heat to freezing cold. Our Lady of Pompeii Church was founded in 1892 as a national parish to serve Italian-American immigrants who settled in Greenwich Village, eventually becoming the American counterpart to the Shrine of Our Lady of the Rosary of Pompeii in Italy and a shrine in its own right. Father Demo Square Park is named for Father Antonio Demo, who was the pastor of the neighboring Our Lady of Pompeii Church from 1897 to 1935. James Agee was an American novelist, journalist, poet, screenwriter, and film critic. In the 1940s, writing for Time, he was one of the most influential film critics in the United States. His autobiographical novel, A Death in the Family 1957, won the author a posthumous 1958 Pulitzer Prize. Agee is also known as a co-writer of the book Let Us Now Praise Famous Men and as the screenwriter of the film classics The African Queen and The Night of the Hunter. The house owned by Julius Goebel was a German immigrant who manufactured crucibles made out of a rare kind of clay found in Germany. This building is the apartment of Monica Geller and Rachel Green from the hit TV sitcom Friends. Fans of the TV show Friends will recognize this iconic building immediately. This 6-story apartment building on the corner of 90 Bedford Street and Grove Street was featured extensively as the exterior of Rachel, Monica, Joey, and Chandler's residence. Adding to the relatable charm of Friends was the fantasy of living in New York City and being able to afford a Manhattan apartment big enough for all your friends to comfortably hang out in the pricey West Village, no less. Monica and Rachel's 2-bedroom apartment, later becoming Monica and Chandler's apartment, became a popular hangout spot for the group when they weren't at Central Park, of course. Friends is considered one of the world's favorite sitcoms and is known for its lovable characters, timeless humor, and iconic fashion. The show's first episode aired on NBC in 1994 and was an immediate hit, averaging around 30.8 million viewers during its second season. Grove Street retains a rustic, old-world, greener feel, complemented by some of the most quintessential bistros, restaurants, and cafes in Greenwich Village. St. Luke in the Fields Garden. The garden's southwest orientation and heat-retaining brick walls create a warm microclimate, allowing a wide variety of flora and fauna to thrive. This green space, with its abundance of berries and flowers, provides a small but important way station for migrating birds and butterflies during the spring and fall seasons. Over 100 species of birds and 24 types of moths and butterflies have been recorded. The church itself, located on Hudson Street between Barrow and Christopher in the West Village, was built in 1821. In 1842, a planting from England's famous Glastonbury thorn tree, a sacred site for Christians, was planted in its gardens. It survived until 1990, when it was knocked down by windstorms. The gardens were expanded in the 1950s and again in 1985. Today, they are comprised of 6 parts in total. The Archive at 666 Greenwich Street is an 11-story rental building in West Village. It was built in 1892 and has 479 units. 1 block from the Hudson River waterfront, the Archive is distinguished by its striking red brick Romanesque Revival-style exterior. The Archive, one of the West Village's most prestigious rental residences. Yup, we are standing at Christopher Street to the west end of the Greenwich Village, the Hudson River Greenway. Across the West Street is the Hudson River Greenway Park. Yup, that is the One World Trade Center, the tallest building in the United States, the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, and the 7th tallest in the world. Marsha P. Johnson Memorial Fountain, a circular fountain in Hudson River Park dedicated to noted trans and LGBTQ advocate Marsha P. Johnson. The wind is howling and the visibility is bad because of the fog this day, but on the bright side, it is a beautiful sunny day. This place is Pier 45 at Hudson River Park. On this 900-foot-long pier include a promenade, artful shade structures, spray showers, seating areas, wood decking and an expansive grass lawn. Pier 45 boasts a good view of Hoboken across the Hudson River, and it is known as the Green Beach by day during the summer. Pier 45 hosts free sunset on the Hudson concerts during the park's programming season. What's better than enjoying music and dancing along the water's edge? Pier 45 is just one of the Hudson River Greenway chain of lawns, parks, and piers, plus a bike path, stretching the length of Manhattan's west side. Hudson River Promenade Greenway is a beautiful and relaxing walk from a long day. The Hudson River Greenway HRG is one of the most popular places to ride, walk, and jog in New York City. The Greenway is separated from traffic and runs through a series of parks along the Hudson River and the west side of Manhattan, offering beautiful views of the water and skyline along its two-lane, 12.9-mile paved path. Beginning at the northern terminus in Inwood Hill Park, the HRG heads south 2 miles toward the George Washington GW Bridge. Before the bridge, the trail takes a steep 160 feet climb to Inspiration Point, which offers views of the Palisades in New Jersey. Follow the trail back down to the river and pass underneath the GW Bridge. As the trail pops out from under the bridge, trail users can see the Little Red Lighthouse. Traveling through and along Hudson River Park, the trail passes playgrounds, landscaped lawns, kayaking facilities, and basketball courts. Signals and directional signage become more prevalent here to ensure safe interactions between cars, bikes, and pedestrians. Highlights of this section include the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum at West 46th Street and Chelsea Piers near West 22nd Street, an area with a driving range and other attractions. As the trail travels the final stretch toward Battery Park, it passes the Freedom Tower and the 9/11 Memorial. At the end of the trail in Battery Park, take a minute to look out over the Hudson River at the Statue of Liberty and take in New York City and all that it has to offer. I personally recommend taking a walk or bike the West Hudson Greenway. I have biked it many times. Also, it is a safe bike path to travel from downtown Manhattan to Inwood and Harlem since there is no intersections and cars are isolated from this path, making it safer than riding a bike at the streets with the cars. The Greenway is also home to art installations and tulips of many kinds. New Yorkers also works on their tan here during a sunny day, since the park has a wide open green space. I just finished my 1-hour break at the park. Now it is time to continue the Greenwich tour. We are halfway through with the tour. Jane Jacobs Plaque, the plaque that celebrates Jane Jacobs, the patron deity of Greenwich Village. It reads, the author and urbanist bought his 1842 row house in 1947 and remained until 1968. She wrote the death and life of great American cities while living here. Greenwich Village Historic District at Perry Street is a sight to behold. It is like visiting the 18th century New York. The Greenwich Village Historic District extension consists of approximately 45 buildings. That represents several phases of construction spanning nearly 2 centuries of development along Greenwich Village's Hudson River waterfront, dating back to 1819. Carrie Bradshaw's apartment, 64 Perry Street. Sex and the City fans come from all over the world to see where Carrie Bradshaw lived. Some say that Carrie Bradshaw's Upper West Village Sex and the City house might as well be the 5th main character as it features in so many important moments in Carrie's life. A lot of women who idolize Carrie Bradshaw are taking selfies and making online contents in front of her apartment as they recreate famous scenes from the hit TV series Sex and the City. Sex and the City is an American romantic comedy drama television series created by Darren Star for HBO, an adaptation of Candace Bushnell's newspaper column and 1996 book anthology of the same name. The series premiered in the United States on June 6, 1998. They concluded on February 22, 2004, with 94 episodes broadcast over 6 seasons. Abingdon Square is one of the oldest squares in the city, dating to 1831, when the Common Council decreed that it be enclosed as a public park. In 1921, 20,000 spectators witnessed Governor Alfred E. Smith present the Abingdon Square Memorial, also known as the Abingdon Doughboy, in memory of local men who fought in World War I. Decorative iron light poles, entrance urns, and trash receptacles evoke Victorian New York, and winding paths are clad with bluestone paving. Today, the Abingdon Square Conservancy supports seasonal floral displays and park upkeep of this intimate and welcoming oasis. Greenwich Village is known for its distinctive architecture, music, dining, and literary heritage. Greenwich Village in New York City has a relaxed vibe, with lots of quirky bars and cafes, cool shops, and a constant community scene. Some say it's a fun place with lots of energy, including street performers, dog owners, and street vendors. As characterized by narrow, crooked streets, old houses, foreign restaurants, quaint shops, and offbeat nightclubs. Washington Square, in its center, is dominated by Washington Arch 1895 and New York University buildings. The Hess Triangle is a triangular tile mosaic set in a sidewalk in the corner of 7th Avenue and Christopher Street. The plaque reads property of the Hess estate, which has never been dedicated for public purposes. The plaque is the result of a dispute between the city government and the estate of David Hess, a landlord from Philadelphia who owned the Voorhis, a 5-story apartment building. By 1913, the Hess family had exhausted all legal options. However, according to Ross Duff Whittick writing in the Hartford Courant in 1928, Hess's heirs discovered that when the city seized the Voorhis, the survey had missed a small corner of Plot 55, and they set up a notice of possession. Stonewall National Monument honoring past and current struggles for civil rights of LGBT Americans. Before the 1960s, Almost everything about living openly as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer LGBTQ person was illegal. The Stonewall Uprising on June 28, 1969 is a milestone in the quest for LGBTQ+ civil rights and provided momentum for a movement. On June 28, 1969, the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar in New York's Greenwich Village, was raided by police. But instead of responding with the routine compliance the NYPD expected, pogroms and a growing crowd decided to fight back. The 5 days of rioting that ensued changed forever the face of gay and lesbian life. Yes, this is Gay Street in Greenwich Village, a street of pride. This ends our tour of the Greenwich Village. Hope you enjoyed the tour. I highly recommend visiting this iconic place when you are at New York. It is a walk to remember the old days in New York.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Ho, ho, ho!